Apparently, we are living in a world where Jumpstart basic lands can fetch up to $400 a piece. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. I hope you are starting your week out well. The heat wave we were having here is kind of broken to a degree, so feeling a little more chill here. Still pretty warm overall though. But we got some real heat to talk about today when it comes to the basic lands from Jumpstart that are selling for absurd amounts of money. Now, I'm sure you've noticed on the screen beside me, there's a head scratcher of a land. Of course, when it comes to a land that's going to command multiple hundreds of dollars coming from a Jumpstart pack, there's going to have to be something special about it, right? These are lands that are from essentially something that's not technically out yet. They're not releasing it until later this month, but they did give us like the teaser taste. If you're wondering about that, because I've actually seen comments from people going, hey, wait a minute, how do people have Jumpstart cards already when it comes out in July? What Wizards did was they sent a number of WPN locations, a small amount of Jumpstart packs, where basically it's the same thing they did when they started the collector's edition concept. And honestly, I think it's pretty clever of them, where they just include it as a freebie. So basically, when you buy a booster box of Core 2021 at the pre-release, like, or around that time frame, I'm guessing most stores are probably out because it's a while supplies last sort of thing. But either way, you buy a box of Core 2021 and they include 2 Jumpstart packs. Now, I have heard reports, although this can't be confirmed, I have heard reports that these Jumpstart packs were absolutely riddled with errors, and I'm 100% willing to believe that. I mean, if you haven't seen the video I did a few days ago about the parade of problems, where we go through a number of misprints, in that video, I only used like the most shocking, eye-grabbing style misprints where there are really, really big errors on the cards. And even that, there was a bunch where like they had big errors on them, but I already had a pretty good representation of it. Like literally, I captured over 40 different examples of errors between Jumpstart and Core 2021, with mostly it being Jumpstart errors before I just said, okay, I've got like 40 different images. I don't even need to keep compiling more images onto this. So we've got a scenario where Wizards apparently pulled back some of these Jumpstart packs and didn't send them out. Basically, I guess maybe, I'm not 100% sure if they made it out to the distributors and Wizards contacted the distributors and said send it back, or if Wizards just only sent part of the Jumpstart shipment out and then realized what a dumpster fire the cards were and actually did the right thing and said, you know what, even though we normally push out garbage product lately, this is not up to our standards. So there may actually be at least a little bit of quality control going on, because I mean, I'm frustrated with the lack of quality control, and we'll get into that because I know some people are on board with this sort of thing. So let's address the lands first. So the lands that we're talking about that are selling for 400 US a piece, roughly. I mean, there's a number of these different ones. They're up for auction. Some are closing at 380, 390. Some are closing at 360. And I'm not sure if they've all actually closed, so they might still be ongoing. But either way, $400 is the rough spot that these cards are being valued at right now. Now, there are a number of mountains like this, all from the same Jumpstart pack. It's interesting about the way that Jumpstart is printed. You can see that errors go across entire theme packs, which is a little bit different than the way we're used to seeing misprints. So we've got these mountain swamps. I guess one of the first questions you might have is what exactly is going on here? Well, what's happened is this is a mountain with a swamp printed over top of it. So underneath you have a regular Jumpstart mountain that was, or like M21 mountain, right? Because in the Jumpstart packs, most of the lands will not have the Jumpstart symbol, but there'll be one special land in each theme pack that's dedicated to the theme of that pack. this is one of the non-specific theme lands that was just included, right? So you have a regular run-of-the-mill mountain that is printed normally, okay? Basically what happens is this card, this entire sheet, in fact, was processed at a bare minimum of 2 times. And what that means is this sheet was sent through once and printed normally, and that's how you get the basic mountain level of it. And then it was fed through the printing process again. So the sheet comes out of the printing process, they take it and insert it again, and it goes back through, this time with Swamp being printed over top of it, right? So that's how you end up with this crazy sort of, if you look at the name and try and figure out what it's saying, it kind of looks like Mwomp Pain or Steam Pain or Stram Pain. It's this weird sort of combination because Swamp has been pressed over top. The same thing goes on the land type down in the middle of the card. When it comes to basic land and everything else, the expansion symbols, those are all the same. But then when you get down to the text box itself, you can see that the black mana symbol has been stamped directly over the red mana symbol. Now, an interesting question that actually comes up with misprints of this specific variety is, what would you consider this card to be? Would you consider this to be a swamp, or would you consider this to be a mountain? I'm not sure how the rules handle this. I mean, I know a lot of the rules that tournament judges need to know to run events, as I've run tons and tons of Magic events, but I've never encountered a scenario where somebody would have a misprint like this. Although, let's be real, it's not really going to matter. If you see somebody playing this in a mono red deck, you're going to accept it as a mountain. If you see somebody playing it in a mono black deck, you're going to accept it as a swamp. The only scenario where you're not going to be able to use this land for real would be if you were playing black and red in the same deck, because then you could easily cheat and say, oh no, I actually play this as a swamp, or no, I play this as a mountain. It's like, you just played it as a swamp last game, you're not fooling me. So in that kind of a scenario, so I feel like most of the time across the board, that's not going to matter. And on that subject, as an interesting note, for misprint players, because there is a very, very small subset of Magic players out there who play this delightful format where you play the card as printed. So they actively seek out misprints that are crazy, like basically look for cards that have the cast, take a big expensive Magic card that has a casting cost that's huge, but the top of the card gets cut off, and the bottom of another card is printed on the bottom of that big expensive card, but it has a casting cost of 0. Then you get to treat the whole card as if it's the insane card with a casting cost of 0. Now that obviously is a very like niche misprint player style of playing, but these people do exist. I find it delightful. And for them, this is actually like an original dual land. This is like a Badlands, because this will count as a mountain and a swamp, which I thought, you know, that's a lot of fun. So when it comes to misprints like this, there are multiple ways that I feel about it. At first, when I see it, I'm generally like, okay, wow, they really messed the card up. And then when I see the values that the cards are going for, I'm like, it's nice that the people who have gotten these misprints are able to get a bunch of money out of it. You know, like let's do the pros and cons, right? The pros are whoever cracks really crazy misprints and knows about the misprint group can get bank for those misprints. Now that's based on a number of different factors, right? But either way, the point remains that you can get more money than you would. Like a regular mountain is worth, what, a penny, a dime, maybe, you know, some game stores will charge you 10 cents for lands, but in most cases, lands may as well be free. But here we have a $400 basic. Now, when you factor in across the entire Jumpstart pack, the fact that this guy got like, what did the Jumpstart packs have? Anywhere between 6 to 8 lands, all coming in at $400 a piece, roughly, if not more. And all the other cards in the pack also have this double printing issue. And if you're wondering how the double printing issue, like, how do these cards make it out into the wild? It's poor basically QA. Your quality department is not doing a good job. The idea behind these sheets originally, as far as I understand it, is print out a sheet and then send it through another couple times to warm the printing press up, to get it up and running, to get all the ink flowing or whatever, if you've used a stamp, whatever it is, it's essentially part of the process. They run it through a few times, but then those are supposed to be discarded. You take that card sheet and you throw it away because it's clearly garbage. But these cards aren't getting caught by quality, so instead they're escaping out into the wild. So we have an individual who got these lands. The entire package that he got is all misprints, including the theme card with just like, you know, when you open a Jumpstart pack, they come in a regular booster, and then it's in another sealed pack inside with the theme of it printed on a card on the front to tell you what it is, which I think is a nice thing to do so that you don't end up like, oh, I've got 15 different dog ones. You can just leave them sealed if you want for whatever, or if you want to mix and match your themes to play particular ones. I think it was a smart move on Wizards' part to put the theme on the outside of the pack. But either way, even the theme card for this Jumpstart pack is misprinted, and the bids on that are already $80. So this is a financial windfall for the individual who got it, which is cool. That's nice. And it's also cool for the misprint collectors who like these oddities. And I can appreciate that because for the longest time, I was a misprint collector, and I might get back into it. But in all honesty, I became disgusted during the Ixalan block, like around that time frame. There's a whole bunch of sets that fall into a giant umbrella of time. Kaladesh block, Ixalan block, a bunch of the master sets were all printed to really low quality standards. So tons and tons of misprints get out. Now, the more common misprints become, the less enjoyable they are, the less valuable they are, the less sought after they are. Part of what drew me to misprints in the first place was that Magic used to be printed to a very high quality standard. So misprints were incredibly rare. And they felt that way. And you didn't feel like, oh, this is the company like doing a terrible job, because mistakes are going to happen. A 100% perfect product is never going to be attainable. But for a long period in Magic history, it really did feel like they had about a 99.9% like, okay, these cards are all good. And it feels like they went from that around the Ixalan block time to like a 60%, like 70% maybe. The amount of misprints were staggering. Like just crazy amounts of foils dark printed with lines across them like they were vertical blinds. Insane, like white cards coming out and looking yellowed and gross like they had just been left around in cigarette smokers' homes for months, just exposed to smoke. Like all of these, issue after issue after issue after issue, to the point where I remember actually raging out and making a big like yelly video just yelling at Wizards of the Coast in very unpleasant terms about how they needed to fix camera quality. That was me back then. I was just thinking back to the old video at the time thinking, wow, that was on the old blurry butter cam. Things sure have changed. This camera's much better. So basically, there was a period where the misprints were so prevalent and awful that I just stopped being interested in misprints. And the misprint groups started to put up postings where they had all these different categories of misprints. Normally the group was like avidly, show us your misprints, whatever you got. But they'd have all these pins posted, don't show us this, don't show us this, don't show us this, don't show us this, don't show us this. Like all of these issues where they're like, just get those out of here. So at that point, misprints became very common and they weren't special anymore. They were just like basically a genuine problem for the game, right? So when it comes to these misprints on like the con side of it, right? Sure, you can sell them for a bunch of money, but that's dependent on the misprint market, which is admittedly a very narrow window of people, right? Like most of the cool misprints I see, if you're interested in where to go to see these kind of cards, on the Facebook, basically is a Facebook group like Major Magic Misprints, Rarities, and Oddities. Now it's a private group, so you'll have to request entry before you're allowed to see anything that's posted in there, but it's a really chill group as long as you behave yourself. They're a fairly serious bunch, so if you go around posting jokes and goofing around and stuff and you're not actually like focused on what's going on, you may get muted or kicked out, but as long as you're just a chill person, you'll be fine there. There's all kinds of awesome, interesting misprints that flow through there, and I do like looking at the really crazy misprints, but that doesn't change to the fact that when there are a lot of misprints, it's only a small portion of them that have this financial value. On top of that, there's only a small portion of the Magic player base that knows when you get a banger of a misprint that you take it to one of these groups and it's worth a whole bunch of money. So in most cases, when people get misprints, all they're doing is getting damaged goods with no upside. Now, when that's happening with Wizards having a good accuracy rate of quality of 99.9%, that's not a problem. It's not causing issues. But when there's a large portion of misprints, that causes genuine issues for the game. Most people aren't going to be able to monetize those misprints, which makes the misprints a loss. It's just an inferior product. It's like buying new sneakers and taking them home, and there's big like oil smears on them or something where you're like, this should be pristine. Like, this is factory fresh, isn't it? Why is my thing ruined, like visually? You know what I mean? Sure, a misprint, technically you can still play it, but it is in essence a ruined Magic card. And you can contact customer service and request replacements or whatever. Sometimes they won't replace cards, they'll just send you out products. Sometimes they'll do it easily where they'll just take your word at a picture. In other cases, you'll have to mail things. But how many people are willing to go that far? My guess is the majority of people, I think everyday people for a lot of things just shrug it and throw it. You know what I mean? Where and by that I mean the majority of people who get misprints aren't going to be like, I'm going to contact the company for replacements. They're going to go, oh, they make garbage cards and I'm not happy about this. So I guess I'm just not going to buy anything from them anymore. I guess I'm just going to throw this off to the side, not say anything to them. So Wizards doesn't learn about all the people who are dissatisfied with their quality. Wizards like bases how well their quality is doing purely on how many people contact them for replacements. That's the only way, as far as I understand, because I don't have the internal workings of Wizards, but as far as I understand, the only way they gauge the level of quality of their product is like based on how many people say this is inferior, replace it, fix it, this is unacceptable. And I don't feel like the majority of people are going to contact Wizards about that, especially if it's not a big important card. But it's going to impact their view of the game overall. It's going to cost the game players. It also decreases the prestige of Magic the Gathering overall. You want to pretend like all these cards are worth so much money on the secondary market, and Wizards takes pain to hire economists to determine like, what's the proper level of reprints? How do we maintain the secondary market at a high level? But part of their strategy of maintaining the cards at a high level should be to print premier level cards. You call your sets premier sets. You are the world's leading trading card game. You should pave the way with the card quality. But the truth underneath it all is Wizards keeps getting the money either way. And in a way, the misprint market helps to reduce the amount of reports they're going to end up going to quality assurance, thus making Wizards think they're doing a better job than they are. So my feeling is that misprints are acceptable when they represent a very, very, very small fraction of overall the production. I don't believe any company can have flawless production, but a very minimal amount of errors are perfectly acceptable, ideally with the majority of the errors being caught before they make it into the public's hand, right? I mean, having sheets that have been fed through the printer multiple times actually make it out from production into the real world is insane. There's that literally shouldn't be able to happen. And on top of that, remember, Jumpstart is intentionally designed as like a beginner product. It's designed to be like, do you find draft too overwhelming? Do you find sealed too overwhelming, where you have to make a lot of choices, and because you have to make a lot of choices, you feel like there's so many ways to go wrong? The more choices you give people, the more decision anxiety they end up with, the longer it takes for them to make choices. There's a reason fast food restaurants only sell a few items, where it's like, yeah, they've got French fries, yeah, they've got burgers. On the menu, they'll be like, we have 10 different combos, but it's really just a burger with different different toppings and maybe a chicken burger. You know, like that's it. The more choice you have, the more you feel like you can screw up. So for beginners, they created Jumpstart to be like, grab 2 packs, slap them together, go and play, you're good to go. So this is a beginner product. This is your introduction to Magic, or one of the first things you do, and the quality is this low. Where's your incentive to continue with the game, right? It's not a good scenario. So those are my thoughts on the matter. I'm interested to hear yours. Share them in the comments below, or tell me whatever you want to tell me. I mean, I've noticed the comment section is more just like the bathroom wall of YouTube. So you know what? Tell me what's ever on your mind. Whatever happened in your day. And while you're at it, like the video, share it around, because that really helps the channel. Sharing videos helps the channel way more than I thought it would. Like, I had no idea. Share the videos, like, comment. That's great for the channel. All if you want to, obviously. You're not required to. And if you really love what I'm doing, hop on my Patreon, because that's a fantastic way to support the channel as well. So thanks for coming by, all my friends, and I will see you all very soon. Goodbye for now.